Hello and welcome to The Drum. I'm Steve Kinane. Coming up, the Prime Minister announces a new centre to fight the threat of cyber attacks. Nova Peris confirmed as a member of the ALP, clearing the way for a Senate run. And the push for a national debate on changing Australia Day. Our panel tonight, Sue Cadell from Cadell Council, author and journalist David Marr, and James Paterson from the Institute of Public Affairs. And you can join us on Twitter using the hashtag #TheDrum. The Prime Minister is facing a backlash from Northern Territory Labor members over her decision to place former athlete Nova Peris at the top of the Senate ticket. The ALP National Executive has officially admitted the Olympian as a party member. Senator Trish Crossan, who planned to run again for the Senate, has signalled she'll fight for her seat. The Prime Minister wants Nova Peris to be Labor's first Aboriginal federal MP. The athlete says she's honoured by that decision.
To have a voice at that federal level for not only Aboriginal Australia but as an Aboriginal woman as well is something that has been incredible, and it's been quite overwhelming, and I've had to come to grips with the enormity of it all, and I don't take this for granted. I know I've got a lot of hard work ahead of me, and that's something I've done all my life. I've worked hard and achieved at the highest level, so I know that I'm in for a hard time, and I'm prepared for it.
Former Labor National President Warren Mundine quit the party recently after becoming disillusioned with its Indigenous policies and the failure to elect an Aboriginal MP to federal parliament. He's welcomed the move to pre-select Nova Peris.
I'm glad to see the Prime Minister intervene in this process because, quite frankly, the structures of the Labor Party hadn't produced this in 112 years, and I couldn't see it into the foreseeable future it happening. So something drastic had to be done, so that's why I feel very happy today.
The opposition leader says while he welcomes more Indigenous Australians in politics, he believes the Prime Minister has shown poor judgment.
I think it's great that the Labor Party is finally trying to put an Aboriginal person into the National Parliament, but there were plenty of candidates who could have emerged through a normal democratic process. It's the way the Prime Minister has done it and what this shows about her judgment, which I think is the real question here.
Sue, what do you make of the Prime Minister's decision here?
Well, it's really interesting. I've got to say it's more, there's more noise than just in the Northern Territory about this. I think there's a lot of disquiet amongst colleagues in Canberra. And you're even hearing the likes of Simon Crean et al. Sort of not being 100% on board and talking about, process and better ways. But, I hate to sort of agree with Tony Abbott on something, especially this early in the year. But, there are three major issues. It does raise a question of judgment. People are still burned over Peter Slipper and some of the other sort of thought bubbles that have blown up, during that reign. You've also got the issue of overriding process. If what you're really trying to do, and you go back to the elders, looking back at what was wrong with the party, Senator Faulkner et al., about what the party needed, overriding process is really, against all of that. But the other thing is, how much due diligence has been done on this? Is it another thought bubble? And if you look at, today, they had Nova Peris do pretty much one soft interview and none of the hard interviews. So, and said by 8 o'clock, that was it. She'd done a media for the day. So clearly the office is giving her a soft introduction to it all. Look, I'm the last person to speak against having a parliament that is more diverse and is a better representation of the electorate. But, the jury's got to be out on this one.
Okay, David, should it have been the Prime Minister's pick, the captain's pick, or should it have been up to the rank and file?
Political parties are always going to give a role to the captain to pick candidates. That's just plain common sense. And Tony Abbott was trying to do it a few weeks ago himself, also up in the Northern Territory, trying to persuade somebody up there to join the Liberal Country Party up there. That's politics. But the context is strange because there has been, since the catastrophe of the 2010 election, this big push within the party to make the party more responsible for the choice of its own candidates, to give the members of the rank and file, to give the members an actual role in the party. God knows, they might even be one day allowed to sort of decide what the policy might be.
Yeah, well, they don't have any role in policy anymore.
There's no role. The only role they have is handing out leaflets. And that the push was to make the party have a better role in that. It contradicts that. But it's the reality of politics that the captain is going to have picks like this. It just seems oddly contradictory at this time. And it is about bloody time that the Labor Party had a black member of federal parliament. So it is a shame.
Quick point from you and we'll move on to James.
But if you ask the basic questions, why now, why this way, and why, you know, should a politician that I know they're now positioning as, you know, a plotter, etc. You know, if you speak to her Senate colleagues, they will tell you that Trish Crossan is one of the hardest workers, you know, and for 15 years has been there chairing incredibly important committees. And to do it this way, you know, none of the answers to those questions are complementary to the PMO or the Prime Minister.
Okay, James, what's your take on this selection?
Look, I agree basically with what David said earlier. I have a lot of sympathy for rank and file members of the Northern Territory ALP. One of the few things that political party members get to do that isn't just the boring, rote, grunt work is to have a say in pre-selecting candidates for office. That's one of the few times that they get to exercise some kind of influence over their party. And I think that's a really healthy thing. I think it would be terrible if political parties increasingly went down this path of selecting high-profile celebrity candidates, particularly those from outside the party who haven't done the hard work in the party, and ending up with a party that was basically chosen by a handful of really small group of people. I think the chances that things are going to go off the rails, that candidates are going to go down the wrong route, is magnified under this scenario. That a robust process with competing candidates done at the grassroots level and have the decision being made by hundreds of party members is always preferable to a small group of people making this decision.
And David, certainly the Labor Party's had problems previously with celebrity candidates and high-profile candidates, haven't they?
Well, certainly the Liberal Party has as well. My view is that you know, they've had a pretty rough trot with celebrity candidates. One celebrity candidate ousted the Prime Minister from his seat. That was a pretty good achievement.
Before she got knocked off by a celebrity
Yeah, she got knocked off later, but that was a historic achievement. And my view is that Peter Garrett has done a lot better than people give him credit for. But I think people look at the political process and say, is it actually there for stars of this kind? Or is it there for representatives of the people? I think she's a terrific woman. I mean, you know, Nova Peris is a terrific woman. And you know, she will be the senator for the Northern Territory. That's it.
James, just finally on this issue, Tony Abbott said, you know, it should have been a democratic process. What about in his own party? He parachuted 2 candidates into the Central Coast seats up there. Is he being a bit hypocritical on that one?
Well, I think when the Liberal Party does it, it's unwise, and when the Labor Party does it, it's also unwise. The Liberal Party rules, though, are much more difficult for a federal executive or federal leader to impose a candidate on one of the state divisions would be an extraordinary and very difficult process, and that's because the Liberal Party is a very strong federal structure, and the individual state divisions very jealously guard their right to pre-select candidates. So a leader like Tony Abbott will always have more influence in his own home state of New South Wales, but if he tried to intervene in pre-selections elsewhere in the country, it's certainly in an overhand way,